We are live with High on Hollywood. I am your host, Austin Campbell.
And I'm your host, Clint Fleury. And welcome.
Welcome.
Yeah.
We are
to another week.
Yeah, we've made it through another week of the pandemic.
Yeah.
We've come to almost a month in our quarantine. And I mean, how have you been doing? How have you been doing?
In my quarantine?
Yeah.
Oh, man, God. You know what? I've been keeping up real busy. So, I mean, that's the thing. Too busy that it doesn't really affect me because a lot of the stuff I do work from home, right?
Right.
So, promoting the podcast is very easy. I do that from my armchair, and then I've been writing poetry, so that's been working. And then I've been, I got my family here, and I've been making sure the kids been doing their homework and shit like that. So that's been
fun times. The poetry though, the
poetry is great. The poetry is fantastic. I think the hardest part is just not being able to just get outside whenever you want and go somewhere. And then
yes,
I think that's what people are struggling with, is not being able to have that freedom to just kind of wander the world like we're used to.
Without worrying about getting arrested or pulled over and asked where you're going, where you came from, do you all live at the same place?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like that's what's crazy. It's like, I just want to go for a walk. I'm not going to hurt anybody. I just got to get out of this house because I'm going to go insane.
If you sneeze outside and that breeze carries it to my goddamn apartment and you kill everybody in this building.
Well, you know what?
That's how it's going to happen. But yeah, exactly. You know what? I say fuck you to that.
I am going outside and I'm going for a damn walk.
And and that's basically, so to bring us to what we're going to be talking about today. No, I'm just kidding. I was like, how are you doing? I'm trying to squeeze out of it there. Look at that. Trying to segue from fuck you to Star Trek. Before I can get okay.
How are you?
I've had better weeks in life. I don't know. My brain has been mean to me lately, so that never helps. Don't let your brain ever get too mean to you, people. Reach out and talk to people and don't be too down on yourself. That being said, I've gotten back into my sit and sings, so I have more to upload today after this too, and I mean just over the next few days and stuff, and I'm hoping to keep that up again. But yeah, I kind of dropped off that for a little while because I was like a human slug, like I like to say. Oh my god, everything is just terrible. I'm just overthinking everything and just really
that's why you gotta stay busy, head. That's why you have to stay busy. You gotta invent things to do, because you know what? The worst thing for anybody out there, the worst thing that could happen to you is to get bored. Because once you start getting bored, you start getting depressed and you start getting destructive. And funnel that energy into something creative and positive and just do something.
I took your advice to write it out. That was what I ultimately did, because your Instagram poem, I'm writing that in one of my blog posts too, because I'm like, this is part of the inspiration. But I mean, returning to writing has helped a lot, actually.
Yes.
Jumping back into, I've started going back over the Gaia prophecy and adding things and taking, the constructive criticisms I've gotten and rebuilding and adding and, really fleshing it out the way I've wanted it to be. Mm-hmm. And then on the other hand, I've just been writing poetry. I'm trying to continue working on drafting up some new blog posts. I got to post one of my new Instagram poems on there too soon. And other than that, like I said earlier, I got to make apple bread today.
Apple bread. Well, I got to make bread myself. I've been planning it. We've been doing spring cleaning in the house too this weekend, so nice. It's been quite the thing. We've been purging some junk. It was like, why not? No, I feel that. Other than that, it's been quite a ride. Just keep writing. That's my message throughout this whole quarantine. Just write it all your shit down, all your pain that you're feeling. Just get it onto the page, release it. You know, do what New Nightmare, what Wes Craven did for Freddy. Just put him into the page, put him into the film, and contain it there, and that's it, and then release it.
I have this notebook now, and I literally you can't really entirely tell, but I literally just am I have like sketches, I have like writing, and I just literally I just write and I just draw, and I whatever I'm feeling or whatever I need to get down, I get down. It doesn't even matter what the context is. I just write it. I've started doing that because I'm like, oh my god, no, I'm gonna hang on to these little pieces, and eventually they'll all form a larger whole. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Well, they'll all come together. It'll all come together in the end. Because you gotta remember, time is like a predator.
True. Time is like a predator, exactly.
Which brings us to what we are talking about today. What you already alluded to, that we're going back onto the Star Trek theme. We're doing exactly what Tiana suggested. We're gonna go with
Tiana.
Tiana.
She has already sliced you in half with her eyes and in her mind.
I did not know what the correct pronunciation was.
You know, we all have. No, I don't know. But
it's all
about time.
I go nuts when people call me Clinton. So
that's fair.
I'll give you that.
I go nuts when people call me Justin. So
Justin.
Yeah.
Hey, Justin. The time is a predator.
Well, this coffee is somehow going through the screen, and I don't know how, but it's going to happen, buddy.
Well, I'm sorry, Tiana.
You know what? No, that was it's fine. It's fine. Anyway, the point is we're watching the first of each film. And Generations is such a weird movie.
It is a weird movie.
It's a conundrum. It's a conundrum.
Okay. It is a conundrum.
Can we agree that it's a conundrum? I'm not. That's the basic.
Okay. What is confusing you about this movie?
No. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I've read up on the movie now, and I understand why a lot of the things that happened.
All right. There's a narrative. There's a story here. Take me through your process of thinking, because I'm very, very interested into knowing what do you mean by conundrum, because it seemed like a straightforward narrative to me.
You could cut out no, it's simple. Well, it's not. Yeah. But it is, but it isn't. You know what I mean? It tries to not be, but it is. It's one of those kind of like the motion picture. You know what I mean? In that sense,
maybe.
Yeah. I don't think it totally echoes the motion picture, but I think it tries to be the next version of that. You know what I mean? And in many ways, but better, obviously. Okay. I feel like you could cut out a lot of footage, even though and you could just make it an episode of The Next Generation. You know what I mean? Also, the way Kirk was originally supposed to die, which is funny, is he was just shot in the back by Saren.
What?
And originally, and test audiences reacted negatively to that, so they made the whole bridge sacrificial.
Okay, I'll give you that. But I'm watching it yesterday. The irony of the bridge. Yes. I'm
just like, okay, but Picard. Okay. No. First, we got to start. We got to start from the beginning, and we got to work our way through this.
We got to work our way through this. It is okay.
The opening minutes, that new captain of the new Enterprise seems like a limp noodle. I love the actor. I always remember him from Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah.
But that whole situation just makes, once again, it's just another way to position Kirk to take over again, for like a hot minute.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It has to deal with. It deals with the idea of it deals with Kirk's whole narrative, and it does go right back to that idea of like the chair. Don't promote you. Don't do anything that'll take you away from that chair, right? The captain's chair, because that's just Kirk's identity, right? He is the captain of the Enterprise, and the thing about the Enterprise B is that's just a throwback to an earlier episode.
But literally. And
Yeah.
here's the other thing. If you really think about the plot in the grand scheme of things, if you replace Kirk with anyone else, it still would have worked.
Well,
Why did he need Kirk to punch Saren? You know what I mean?
Because it's Kirk.
Yeah, exactly.
The whole story, like,
because,
so what's your thought about time? How is your thought? How are you thinking about time as it's represented? Because there's a lot of ways it's represented.
I'm fascinated by that. I'm fascinated by that whole idea.
Yeah, it's because you have to think about it. Is time is often references the clocks, Saren's timepiece. He's constantly talking about time. Time is completely not linear. Obviously, time you can go forwards, backwards. You can play with it. You can obviously go to any place in time you want.
Time is a spectrum, just like emotions.
That's right. So what does that say to you in the narrative of being the captain of the Enterprise, having this level, this?
Well, the Nexus to me is like this mosaic of time, right? So,
well, you have like a social status, right? And you want to be you're elevated to that, right? Like look at Picard. Picard's whole narrative throughout that thing was that he was running out of time. He was
he's the last Picard.
He's the last Picard. So,
right.
Does that help reconcile some things for you? The other thing about this is that before production went on to this, like they literally just got off of making
the final
show.
Season. Yeah.
The final season, like last episode, and the next day they were onto the movie set. And
they were actually filming parts of this and that at the same time. In fact, so there were actually moments where they were being shuttled back and forth between sets on the Paramount lot.
They must have lived in those costumes, like.
Yeah, although the funny thing being the fact that they had to use a combination of Next Generation and DS9 costumes. Jonathan Frakes and LeVar Burton were not wearing their costumes from the Next Generation in many shots. That's why their sleeves were rolled up. It's because Jonathan Frakes was wearing Avery Brooks' costume, which was too small for him. And LeVar Burton was wearing Colm Meaney's uniform from DS9. Yeah.
Why?
And if you because of the budget, and they scrapped the original redesigned outfits. 1 second here, I have his name pulled up. Because I knew I was going to have to talk about this. I was like, this is absolutely crazy. And as soon as Tayana mentioned it to me, honestly, it was so distracting.
Sorry,
I was like, oh
Tayana.
my God. Okay. Yeah, Tayana.
Okay, Tayana. I won't remember that. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. We'll figure it out.
I'm terrible with them.
We'll break your legs.
Names.
It's fine. Robert Blackman is his name. Robert Blackman was the one who redesigned the costumes. He was trying to take the same approach they took in Wrath of Khan in redesigning the Starfleet uniforms there, but applying that to, the next gen. And at the last minute, they were like, nah. And he was like, oh. So they had to,
That's made, like, you know what? It didn't make any sense to redesign the costumes. Not yet, anyway. I mean, I was okay with the redesign in First Contact.
Right. They also reused a lot of practical elements, like the table that Geordi's on when he's being tortured by Saren it was originally a birthing table in episodes of Trek in the next gen. But,
I'm sure that's what you do when you're on a set like that. You're constantly borrowing. You're constantly.
Well, and as they pointed out, right? They're literally in between. Filming the final season and that at the same time. Of course, they're gonna,
and DS
take things.
Yeah, DS9 was filming at the same time.
Right.
Everything is. I mean, that's exactly.
So it's just it's interesting, right? It's interesting. I thought, and the whole costume thing just got a little distracting for me because of that, but it wasn't too bad because I mean.
It seemed to bother you.
The last 45 minutes of the film, they'll mostly focus on Picard and Kirk, so it's fine. And that whole
that one was a little jarring.
Race for time.
Yeah, when they get into the Nexus, that scene, a lot of that stuff probably could have been cut out because
Picard's weird Victorian.
It was it's like idolized family. I even tried looking up who played his wife. I wanted to know if it was like a throwback, because it would have made more sense if she was Beverly Crusher, right? She's just some random girl.
Same with Kirk's wife, and she's also a random. She's never been referenced in anything. She's not a series character that was established.
But and then as soon as they jump back after he convinces Kirk to come back with him, they jump right back to that spot. They had to interject a little recap of what happened.
Yeah,
and I was sitting there and I'm thinking to myself, okay, that's a choice of you had to remind the audience what was happening because of this whole long extra chunk that they put in there.
That you just threw us out of randomly. And I don't know. I think what bothers me is that, and then the other thing is too, you didn't necessarily have to have Geordi being freaking tortured. What was actually the point of that? What did that really accomplish? It was
nothing.
Just literally a distraction, and a bird of prey should have been, as my friend Miles pointed out on our Facebook page. I mean, the Enterprise should have been able to just, squish that damn thing like a bug. Just because it had the whatever sisters on it doesn't mean that it's invincible.
Well, that's what Dave even said that. It's that's a galaxy-class star system. What are you, fucking nuts?
Yeah, little Sarah, and you're a dumbass. That's why I laughed at that moment, because I was like, yeah, holy shit. You're an idiot. You're just, he's not being an idiot because he's using them, but
It's like they had to write something quick.
Yeah, they were like, how do we make it so that they had to give the crew a reason to not be with Picard on the planet, especially too, to not follow him or anything like that, to just stay on the Enterprise. But man,
this movie did was it took whatever made the original series, the original series movies, and crapped all over them. It's okay.
Well, yeah, because
the narrative of Picard has always been he is the captain, and his status as the captain has to be separate from the crew. That's why the crew always go gambling, and he's never there, and they're always in the 10
until the end
together. Picard, because that's how that's him as a captain, right?
Right.
He's very traditional and formal.
I need to preface this by saying I have not seen the entirety of The Next Generation, though I have seen crucial episodes that relate to, the Borg and other things like that. I haven't seen all 7 seasons all the way through.
You know what? You don't really need to.
Not for Generations, especially.
Well, that's the thing. It's just the last episode just kind of leaned. It's okay, that's it. Episode end, and the mission's over, and they kind of threw back to their first episode, and it was just this Generations movie was supposed to be the last one, right?
It's also but it's so weird because
it's a final there.
It feels more like a handoff. It doesn't just feel like, you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like.
No, I definitely, I'll give you that, because I always figured that this was a handoff movie.
Yeah,
and
it's awkwardly timed.
Well, it's such an awkward timing, isn't it? It's you're 7 years too late.
Shouldn't this have been what happened? Yeah, maybe a couple seasons into Next Generation or something.
Well, they kind of had even Geordi had his handoff moment when he learned from Scotty in that one episode. And
that's true. That's true.
There was a couple ones where even Bone showed up on the first episode.
Yes,
there was a throwback there.
I do remember that. He was ancient though.
Yeah, and then Spock's been on the show.
Yes,
but this was Shatner's handoff. If you really want to think about it as a handoff movie, you can think of it as Shatner's handing off the movies to Rick Berman to do,
which is not a great statement to have as a claim to fame. You know what I mean? Although on the other hand, to contrast that with Leonard Nimoy in the Kelvin verse films.
There you go.
Which is also controversial in the Trek community. You know what I mean?
Well, which we'll be talking about next week.
I know. Oh God. You know what though? Okay. No. Okay. I can't even get into that yet. But
no.
Generations is, to me, a fascinating study in a mishmash of ideas or not even really a mishmash of ideas. I think a solid core concept that really could have worked well, that became surrounded and muddled in all these other smaller ideas that really, you know, kind of throw it off. Because this whole idea of time and time as a fabric, right? And like this spectrum, like I said, and kind of visually represented that way. It's very like
as a thread.
Yeah, as a thread. It's just, I don't know, that fascinated me. It fascinated me. Sorry, what were you going to say? You looked like you were going to ask a question.
No.
Stoned off his ass, bud. You know, I can't believe this guy over here. Oh, he's falling. I'm not. There's going to be no.
No. I was just like, I'm trying to visualize your thread, like, and that's what it was. Yeah. It's actually a legitimate thread ribbon in space and that represents time.
And when Picard goes in there, he essentially plucks Kirk out of like purgatory, essentially, or out of like this, like maybe even heaven, I dare to say.
Well, that Guinan sure as hell fucking calls it that.
Basically, I mean, right?
Basically describes it as that. It's literally, you are no longer a physical being. You are this entity now, a part of this. You are a part of the universe, essentially.
Well, and as Tiana said, like, and as I came to understand it too, the longer you stay in there, the longer you come to believe the lie, quote unquote, that you're living in. But to me, it's just, well, that's fine. You could live out the right, like, that's fine. I would die there if it's eternally.
I don't think it's a bad thing.
You know, you know, Kirk would have been totally in his right.
To say no.
You know, and I think we're meant to ask that question too. Is it nobler to die in the Nexus or you know, at the hands of Saren, or because of the Axis?
Nah, you know what?
You know, but that was, so he went out in a Kirk way. And all those shots
exactly.
with him in that ending are so classic Kirk that I love the way he was framed.
Except,
I love the way
except for the one where he's on the bridge.
Yes.
The I don't know why that was a choice, but, and that was an awkward choice. They like focused right on his face, and it's like, just jump already, you old man.
I think it was supposed to be kind of a callback, a little bit, you know. Like, you know,
could be. It could be.
I don't know, but
it was bad. I'm sorry. It was just like, you're pressed for time here.
I just can't get over the fact that after all that, after sitting through all that, after Geordi gets kidnapped and Data has his emotion chip implanted and goes around being a wacko for an hour and 57 minutes. I loved that, though. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, I love that because I love Data. Like, you can't.
Yeah, no, Brent Spiner is perfect.
And Data and Geordi just, right here, man.
By far, they're perfect friendship.
Yeah, you know, next to like Kirk and Spock, next to like, you know, like those those kind of friendships. Like, it's one of those.
Yeah.
You know, or Kirk and Bones. You know, like I forget what I was going to say after that, but I love that aspect of the film, even though it was kind of a distraction it was a random subplot. It was a random subplot, and this film was kind of full of that.
It's a connect the dots film.
Yes, and that's part of why, right? Like,
and the thing is, if it's just an extra long episode of Star Trek,
literally,
like it's TV people who wrote the script
and a TV guy who directed it.
And you know what? Not to say that it wasn't a bad movie. It's enjoyable at the very least. There is some choices there that, you know, fit and work better for a television audience than it does for a motion picture audience.
Well, I have a question for you. For you because Tiana said this, and as I'm watching the film, I'd only seen it kind of in bits and pieces once before, so this was pretty much my first time watching it again, ever in like a decade.
I drop it in at least once a year. I watch the Star Wars.
Oh my God! Oh,
I watch the Trek. Hey, you know what?
I'm kidding.
No rivalry here.
Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Anyway, everybody out there, I have no hate towards anybody. Only
the Trek.
Love.
I watch the Trek at least, you know, once a year. Once a year, I go through all the movies because they're just
But
one of those things.
Would you agree that it's more of an action film than, and like what you would expect out of a Next Generation film? You know what I mean?
No, no. Actually, I expect the kind of the actiony stuff. Generation was more. It was more towards the actiony stuff. They had their diplomatic missions, but they the big memorable episodes of Generation was always like the big Borg episodes, and the ones where the stakes are really raised, and there was all the battles. And
that was always action heavy. That's true.
Yeah,
the Borg moments were always action heavy.
I mean, like if you look at First Contact, that's why we should talk about First Contacts. Not next week, but like soon or whatever.
Yeah,
in the future, but because that's First Contact kind of explored all that stuff. That's why when you start, if we ever talk about like Picard as a whole on one episode,
have you finished? A lot
of those throwbacks go back there. I haven't finished it yet. Sorry.
Okay. No, just double checking. We're gonna keep running.
Just keep asking.
Exactly.
These days we'll be like, yeah, we're talking Picard.
No. And this movie is good for that too, because I like me a softer Picard personally, and so seeing him really vulnerable in this film is one aspect of it that I actually really enjoy, and I always love watching Patrick Stewart as Picard, so that is already taken care of. But I feel like he's given some awkward lines to deliver, like when he tells Troy that his nephew and his brother burned to death. I mean, Tiana said that it's very, like, that's just characteristic of Picard too, kind of the way that it's written.
Yeah,
but it just kind of made me like, and I agree with that, but it still made me like.
Let's break that down a little bit more. What do you mean? Like,
just like the way that line is delivered, literally, just
like the way
and the way it's written, the way that he has to deliver it, basically, not even the way that it's delivered, but the way that he has to. It's just it's an awkward line to have to say. They burned to death in a fire, and like
that's totally Picard. That's not awkward. No, but I've sided with her on that one.
No, and I think that's totally fair, and I agree with her. I was like really like. And like I said, I haven't watched all of Generation.
How would you have written it?
Now I can't remember the exact line, but I mean, I can't even defend myself on this.
Would you just give Stewart the choice? Just be like, okay, if you don't like that line,
the choice. That could be the way he decided to. You know what I mean? Like that, and all actors make choices, so that's why I'm like, it's totally fair. It's totally fair. That's within Picard's character. I'm not claiming to be an expert on Picard, honestly, because I'm not.
Yeah, it's just Picard's just always, even in appearances, which was weird. Like seeing him on the bridge and handing it off to Riker just before, like, just after learning that Renee died, and
yeah,
even that's a little uncharacteristic for Picard, because Picard's all about duty. Right, he's all about being the captain, and seeing that vulnerability in him, it humanizes him. It breaks. It sees a different side of him, which.
Yes, exactly.
Which actually, which helps this narrative. Oh, like why this narrative's so enjoyable, because we get to see a different side of Picard that we didn't see on the television show, that we got to see little glimpses of, because like one of the best episodes, I can't remember the name of it, but it's when he is transported to this planet and he lives out this life in another alien's body, and then all of a sudden he's snapped away at the end of the episode, and he goes back to being Picard, and he has all the memories of having this life as this alien person, and It's like you get to see some vulnerable moments in that, and very human moments, because he's no longer the captain; he's someone entirely different.
Man, Picard has had a lot of like out of body experiences.
The dude has been around. The dude's been around the galaxy.
Yeah, no kidding. Like Locutus over here. My God. Wow.
He's had
Poor
some
bastard.
really, really cool. It's a really cool episode.
But that's fascinating, and I mean that just lends itself perfectly to the whole philosophical bent of Star Trek, right? I mean that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Makes
this
you
movie for me,
identity.
I don't know, with the whole Warbird thing, with kind of the subplot, I don't know.
It's janky. Yeah,
it's janky. It's a janky film to me.
You have to suspend your disbelief a lot.
Yeah.
And it's
I guess that.
Yeah, you
that's
have to.
fair.
You have to look at it as more of an escapist film. There's not besides like time being as the underlining through line here. Like when we're looking at time as a legacy, time as lineage, time as time, like even the Enterprise itself as a character is subject to time by the end
change.
Yes, exactly, definitely, because you saw, NCC 1701, and then you got to see Enterprise B, and now you're on Enterprise D. We don't even know what happened to Enterprise C.
No,
as I remember.
I don't think so. Anyway,
but it's like it's changed so much, and now this was the end of Enterprise D, right? This is literally when it crash landed into the planet. Because that was it. It got that critical hit.
Because Riker is the best pilot ever of the best captain of the Enterprise ever.
That was his time to shine, and that's why I like Riker.
I do actually.
I would love to have seen what he did next, which was he went to captain the Titan.
Yeah, exactly.
And from what I know of, I haven't read the books yet though. But
I mean, me neither. I want to read the sequel novel. Because I promised Miles I would, and I promised myself that I will, because I really just want to read The Return. I want to read some hardcore Shatner fanfic here.
You know what? I was never going to read it, so I'm glad you have it.
I skipped ahead to a scene in it, actually, and it features a scene where Spock is tracking down Kirk, because Kirk has been resurrected by the Borg and the Romulans to infiltrate the Federation and kill Picard, and become their agent and whatever. And so Spock is on his way to try and find them, and he encounters a member of the Borg collective, and for some reason the Borg doesn't identify him as anything other than a Borg, potentially, and he surmises it's because of the logical side of it, like Vulcans and whatnot, and then he wonders what the implications of that are, and then the Borg takes him on a vessel to
green-blooded
Cube, and it's like, I was so like, you can't do that. No, I mean, there's a lot of other things like that. It was just really weird. It was interesting, and that's only it's out of context.
Shatner, I could do whatever I want.
And that's a good point, right? He wrote it, right? So I mean, I'm sure he was given a list of things, like events that happen at certain times and things like that, but I doubt he had any other restrictions.
The thing is, it's not the first one he wrote. He's written a few of them.
Exactly. I have inside the cover too. It says it lists all the and other books that he's written that I had never heard of. A series, in fact, that was adapted into a television series. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I forget what it's called. I'm not going to try to blabber that out because I'm just terrible with names, apparently. Well, I already know that.
No. Oh, what have I done? No, don't be like that. It's fine.
No, actually, no, it's true. You can ask Chris. I'm terrible with names.
I used to be good with names. I've gotten worse over time. More the busier I get, the worse I get with names. If I'm which sounds, it sounds pretty obvious, but it's just I don't know. Like when we were doing ESA stuff, and we were just meeting so many different people. Sometimes first names were just a no.
Yeah, especially that. It takes me a couple times.
Sometimes I need to
hear it a few times.
Exactly. I just needed to be reminded, but I would get it eventually. And I used to be better than that. That was my point. I used to be able to just, pick it right up. I would just know people. I'd be like, hey, so and so. Snapping at everybody as I'm walking down the street.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, it's all about the passage of time, because time involves memories too, and
Well, exactly.
you know, I question whether the Nexus is like, really, like, I don't know. It's an interesting concept. And to me, that's the concept that I'm like, hello. You're making bingo noises over there. No, I don't know.
It's Facebook.
Oh. Is it
It's nothing important.
a poem like?
No, I haven't written anything in a couple of days. I've been cleaning, so
That's fair.
I've been doing that shit.
I have just been writing the Gaia Prophecy and kind of thinking about, I don't know, because I had Star Trek fanfic that I was working on.
Yeah.
Star Trek Cisco, I call it. But I don't know. I'm putting it on hold because I want to watch more, because I'm still really behind technically. So I have a lot to watch still. And I mean, yeah, I don't know. It's an annoying place to be because I'm at a disadvantage, as Tayana pointed out. I'm starting out later than most.
Oh, you got so much content to catch
hundreds
up
of hours.
Oh
hundreds
my
of
god!
Hours,
it's gonna take a long time.
Yeah. Oh god, no, wait, no, okay, no. I was like, that. It hasn't been a long time. It's gonna be a long time.
It'll take a long time. It's gonna be a long, long time.
Yeah, thanks. It'll be more of an Elton John experience. Yeah, slow and steady.
You're the Rocket Man.
It's been a long time getting from there to here. Sorry, I just love Enterprise. I had to get it out. I had to get it out because I love Enterprise.
I enjoyed the first season. It just kind of got.
It's all good.
Put it down.
Been canceled. Oh, it hurt.
I'll try. Because I did like Bakula. As a captain.
I mean, come on. How can you not like Scott Bakula? How can you not like Jonathan Archer? He's like.
I never said I didn't.
I know. I know.
And then I got onto other things. It's rather sometimes you just gotta pick it up again and just be like, oh, give things a second shot.
Well, and Trek is one of those shows sometimes, right? That I find, you drop off for a minute and then you're like, I'll get back into this, and then you do, and then you're like right back into it, like,
Yeah.
Because I mean, on the other hand, I'm a weird person who most people say the first season of most Treks are kind of rough to get through.
A little bit. They're like even Generation had its problem. Like that first season of Generation was just completely like.
But I enjoy them. I'm a weird guy. I don't have any. I don't know. I still like. I'm not saying I love every single episode ever, but like
it's just they made some choices. Like
I tend to like.
But you can tell. Like I enjoyed the first season of Generations, and then the second season came around, and everyone's okay. We killed off one of our people. Riker now doesn't have. Well, Riker has a beard now. It's just like, where did Ensign Crusher? What happened to Beverly? There's this other doctor, and it's just like, okay, he just
killing Natasha Yar off is like totally like
they regret it.
Like why?
You know what? You got some pretty good episodes after that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I love that. No, it's true though. It is true. So I guess that's fair. But still, goddamn.
Well, I think what happened was, I don't know. You don't quote me on this. Something either happened in her life, whether or not she got pregnant, or there was something that happened during the filming at that time that said she had to step away and give up the role.
Interesting. Yeah.
And that does happen.
Did you know?
I did not. I don't know anything.
Did you know that?
I don't claim to be a wise man.
No, Alexander Siddig, a.k.a. our lovely Dr. Julian Bashir on DS9, is the nephew or cousin. Damn it. I'm sorry, Tayana. Either nephew or cousin of Malcolm McDowell, and convinced him to be the villain in Generations.
Thank you.
Isn't that interesting?
I liked Soren as a villain. I like Malcolm McDowell. He plays
I mean, that was always going to be solid. I just wish they'd given him more to do than stand on a cliff and be angry.
He delivered some of the better lines, though.
Well, yeah. Of course, because they're like, we still got to write some stuff for this. Like, we have Malcolm McDowell, you know, and he definitely, you know, I think relished the opportunity to be a villain. You know, I mean, he's always typecast as in kind of villainous roles too. Like that was always kind of like his.
I usually see him as like
following a Clockwork Orange, anyway.
Not just that. Well, he was also in the Apes movies, right?
Right.
So he can play the nice scientific nerd kind of guy. I've always seen him I've seen him as a butler because he was on Chris watches Overboard once every 2 weeks. So he was an Overboard there as the Jiminy Cricket character because he's British.
Yeah. No, I just yeah. He was destined to be a Star Trek villain one day. Is all I'm really saying. Like, I mean, that was good, solid casting.
Yeah, that was solid casting. 100%. I mean,
the movie. That's the thing. Generations isn't actually like. It's not a bad movie. It's just it's like a 3 out of 5. It's it's frustrating because it has more potential than what it
could have been. That's the thing. Is like that's why First Contact is such a solid movie.
Yeah, well, that's a movie for the fans for sure.
That is definitely okay. We've already talked about the past. We put the past behind us, and now we're going to show you what our version of the movie was going to be. And then Generations raked in a decent amount of money and a decent amount of franchise notoriety that
thankfully enough
you got First Contact like a couple of years after that, and I still say, like, out of that series, First Contact is by far my favorite.
No,
I think pretty much everybody's favorite.
No, Nemesis is clearly the best. I think everybody loves Nemesis. I think it's a wide consensus that Nemesis is the best Star Trek film ever produced. Almost killed Tom Hardy due to drug addiction. Best film ever made.
I
debate
cannot.
I'm just kidding.
Watch that movie without falling asleep.
I still remember. I have vivid memories of watching it with my dad because it was the last Star Trek film we watched until 2009.
I can't. It's every time I put it on. And you know what? You got some of the best Riker moments in that movie, and I just can't get
and they finally get married, him and Troy, which is nice too. All those moments are nice, but it's like, finally, yeah. Oh my God, Jesus Christ! Thank God you gave us that.
It's like, okay, and the wedding's over, and next on to a perilous mission where we're all gonna die.
Yep.
The one thing that bugs me about Generations, and one thing that bugs me about the Enterprise D in throughout the whole thing is that there's a shit ton of civilians on that.
You know what Enterprise. Though? Yeah, that's what both Tayana and I were pointing out. Those ships, you don't realize, are actually full of people. And they're huge. They're big ships.
Oh yeah, they're
even watching the motion picture, we're you don't even realize. But sometimes looking at these models, but that is a massive vessel floating through space right there.
Well, you got thousands upon thousands. What, 100,000 people on that ship?
A number of crew members, exactly. Gotta be upwards of 1,000.
Children, civilians, merchants, just hitching a ride.
Yeah. That's why we were good thing O'Brien and Kiko got off there before shit hit the fan.
We're going to DS9.
Yeah, exactly. That's the cool place to be.
They have their own problems.
Yeah, well, it's true. Yeah, they run it. Yeah, because O'Brien ends up kind of getting the Geordie treatment over there. He gets
totally.
He gets fucked with all the time. Yeah, exactly. Fucked with all the time. But
it's I get it. These ships are built for mainly diplomatic discovery missions, so you're not running into battle. But the thing is, you're running into battle quite a bit.
I mean,
there's a lot of battle that's going on, and that's just that's.
Especially as you pointed out in TNG, imagine all those people on that ship during the battle at Wolf 459. You know what I mean? That's horrifying. Oh Jesus.
And the thing is that the Enterprise didn't survive this movie. It crash landed. You have all those fucking children, and it's like Geordi says, "Get out of the bed."
Like on the plus side, everybody got up into the disc, but like,
yeah.
Because can you imagine if they could have made it more tragic and been like, we can't get the others out. Like there's at least like 200 people over there or something. And then Riker is this disgraced captain. No, I don't know.
Because even in the captain's log, Picard said casualties were minimal. So casualties.
Like, Tana literally pointed that out. I was like,
how many kids died?
Like, yeah, okay, who died here, Riker? What are we covering up?
It's like, that's the thing. It's like everybody that dies on this show is just like, they're dead. Let's move on.
It's just like the motion picture, right? When frickin' when Decker died. Just like, well, that was sad. Anyway, let's continue on.
So, what does that say about time? What does it say about us as a species? Like that?
Is it like?
I mean, I guess back in the day, like when we were on normal ships, like is the beginning of Star Trek, you're on the big ship and he's calling back.
Yes, I like that.
A lot of people were dying at that time. So
right.
Due to plague, due to poverty, due to everything, people died all the time. It was normal. So what does that say in the future when we're traveling through space on these big giant ships about to get attacked? Like, is death still kind of like not something to be worried about?
Well, and to kind of ask a question. Towards death? Well, and that's interesting. That's interesting. To kind of ask a question and answer to your question. The other thing that Tiana pointed out is like, and then I was like, whoa, is like, there's this obsession with looking backward. Even in the horse riding sequence, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, very cowboyish. But do you really think that people in 2200 are going to look back? Like, do we really look back at those time periods and say, man, I'd be way better to live there than it would to live right now? You know what I mean? Like, we would be way better off. Because something tells me we don't.
I don't think so. But Star Trek definitely does that quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's real here. Yeah. They're always looking back to a different time period and saying, hey, what... Or, like, I don't know if the original series was so much into it. The original series kind of looked at it as, like, objectively and says, like, look how primitive these guys used to be. Yes. Where Generations did negotiate that, where it was just like, look at this place of conservativeness. Like, it's like this place of... it's a pastoral sense.
Yes.
Very, very pastoral.
Bucolic.
Because, because even... Look where he lives. He lives in the middle of nowhere. He's got a ranch. Everything is... even if you go back to that Picard episode, look where Riker lives. It's just like, it's so Star Trek to say, once you're retired, you get almost a slice of heaven.
You get a secluded piece of paradise. Yes, exactly.
You do your time as a Starfleet officer, and when you're retired, you get your own piece of heaven, your own slice of heaven.
Pretty much. Although it's always tainted somehow. For every captain, because I mean, even with Riker and Troy, there's tragedy. With Picard, it's interrupted by everything that happens, and with Kirk, it's interrupted by Picard. Picard's just kind of a problem for a lot of people. No, I'm kidding.
Damn it, Picard!
Yeah,
just die.
Stop showing up everywhere. No, but there is this element
into my life. There's destruction.
There's this sense that. And I think it's a very universal thematic sense, tapping into Star Trek's whole thematic sense of humanity, that we live on in our legacies. And that is how we actually survive time. Not by living forever, literally.
No.
But rather by living through the stories that are told about us, the things the actions that we take that affect someone else's life or change someone else's life or save lives, like Kirk did. He died knowing he saved the universe, for the last time. As he, that was his last act.
It was fun. Oh my!
And that's a brilliant, like that was a brilliant moment. But I loved that. And watching the captain's documentary and listening to, Shatner sit there and kind of break down what he was like, why he made
thinking
the
at that
choices.
time.
Yeah, like I'm like that's really interesting to actually hear an actor discuss how they thought of dying when they had to die on screen.
It's not even like
how you die as Captain Kirk.
As Captain Kirk, how do I portray that? And I thought that was I thought that was a pretty cool moment in that documentary. But after that point where you get like your last words are "oh my," like you're facing death and this is the moment you're afraid. You were just telling him, it was like I just had so much fun. Death
isn't always something to fear, though. I think that's the whole point. He's embracing death. He's embracing death.
Death is beautiful, or death is fun.
Death is the next great challenge. Death is the next great journey. That's the idea. It's the idea that and it's not necessarily like because fear of death makes it harder to die. That the struggle to die is unnecessary when, like in a situation like that, for example, specifically, he chose to let go, knowing he had made his final heroic act as Captain Kirk, and knowing that he would live on in the memory of the next Enterprise captain, and influence, the next generation. Pun intended, of course. And as cheesy as that sounds, it's true. And I think this sounds weird, but every time I get on an airplane, and this is no joke, I accept death. I accept that this could be it. I literally tell myself, I'm like, this could be the time that the plane does not make it across the lake. And, you just anything can happen any day of your life. I could have an aneurysm tomorrow. Who knows? That's kind of why you have to live every day like it's your last to an extent. And that's a hard motto to live by. For me personally, I'm starting to think I might have undiagnosed ADHD too, which doesn't help. Potentially.
Me and Chris were talking about this. Everybody has ADHD.
And in this day and age too.
Everybody. I have it. Jack has it.
The access to technology that we have had, and I'm not even kidding. I'm not trying to sound like an old crony or anything like that. But like, it's just that actually has had an effect on us in terms of our attention spans and our ability to stay focused.
I think it's I think there's a lot of things that are intricate.
A lot of distractions.
Yeah. Technology for one, everything kind of balances and blends us to the point where it's like, okay, how do we focus anymore when so much information is being thrown at us? There is something here and then something going on here, and you're constantly looking. And I think a lot of that has to be influenced by our technology, because there was just so many fucking screens beating information on us, and we're not evolved enough to process those kind of information, much information all the time. So that's what my personal opinion is.
I'd also like to add, on an unrelated to that note, just kind of circling back to the death thing, that I think that embracing death doesn't mean giving up, right? Like when I say that, I mean
no.
It's just it is an act. It's like embracing your emotions. Like Data learned to embrace his newfound emotions. Like Picard had to embrace the emotions he was feeling about how vulnerable he was feeling about being the last Picard, and losing his beloved nephew and his okay brother.
It's like, he mellowed out.
Yeah, that's true. Well, they solved their differences according to Tana. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah, they did. They did in the one episode, right after the Lokitas episode, which was another really good episode because it shows you more of the humanity of the human side of Picard, more the mellower side. What did Picard say at the end of the movie about life? Eventually it just ends, right?
Yeah.
And you're right. It's looking at the death. You don't look at death as as the end. It's not the end.
No.
It's a beginning of something else. And
and I mean that's also my own personal opinion too. Like,
well, it's not, the thing is we shouldn't be going through life being afraid of dying. Is if we're so afraid of dying, we're not living. That's the thing. If we're sheltering ourselves in our houses, being afraid of death all the time, we're not out there doing and living life to the fullest. And that's what the whole point of a life is. We get so down on ourselves all the time, and because we're literally just bored.
It's
life
ironic, though,
for
right?
the living,
It's ironic. The more you fear death, the more you're consumed by it, and the less you live, as you pointed out.
And then you're
interesting.
And then you freak out when you're at the end of death. When you're end of your life, you start freaking out by like saying, "Oh shit, I haven't done anything with my life. I haven't done."
And that is kind of what is that. That's Picard's journey in this film, right?
Yeah.
Because he as soon as Julian, that's his nephew's name, right? I'm pretty sure.
No.
Renee. Renee, yes. Oh my
Renee.
God, like, it was something French, I knew. But anyway, when Renee and Robert die, it's he's facing his own mortality suddenly, very suddenly.
Yeah.
And at the same time, that ultimately is the connective tissue that the writers kind of contrive to make it so that Kirk has to be the character that he finds in the Nexus to connect with, because emotionally they're on the same level, because Kirk also has to face his mortality, but there's also, to me, like I said, that sense in the movie where I'm like, you could have actually just left Kirk there. It's kind of a jerk move to pull him out just to let him get crushed by a fucking bridge.
Just that's another funny scene in that movie is when they come back and Kirk is the one that steps out of the bridge, and then Picard appears behind him, and
I know.
and then Malcolm McDowell looks at both of them and then jumps through through the barriers. Like, yep, that plan did not work whatsoever.
That was such a 60s Star Trek moment. That whole moment was, oh my God. And then the whole fact that that's why you brought him out. I thought there was going to be a lot more to it.
Where's the punching? He just jumps through the barriers. Like, okay, you know what? You need to go back into the Nexus and do this again, guys.
Yeah, maybe we need to reverse this even further. Maybe we need to do something else.
We'll try this again.
So
it's like I was just sitting there thinking, it's like, this is the best time for Cisco to pop out.
This is the breast time.
Best.
He is the best man for that. No, it's true. Yeah, can you imagine? Just like, Cisco just zaps
you guys need some help?
That would have been awesome. That's a missed opportunity, though, to have any sort of a crossover, And then that's one thing Tiana pointed out. I mean, there was a lot more. They spent a lot of time they spent a lot of time on things that ultimately didn't go anywhere, like Geordi's visor and the whole spying operation. That actually ate up a lot of screen time when you think about it, but ultimately had no bearing on the plot other than to distract Riker for 5 seconds so he could fuck up.
Well, I mean, they had to get through the shields. They had to find some way to take down the Enterprise, and
which they knew they weren't going to be able to take down anyway, even if they were able to get I'm sorry, you're going to get one shot, maybe a few more through the shields, but this is still the Enterprise D we're talking about here.
But the thing is, they shot it, and they shot and it bounced off the shields of the bird, right?
Yeah, it's true.
And they were already damaged to a point where it's like, fuck, we can't fire anything.
It's true. Screwed. They got shot in the ankles. They were crippled. It's true.
They were crippled. So they got a good those shots that the Klingons got onto the Enterprise were good shots.
They were. I just man. Where's J.J. Abrams when you need him? He would have had them ram the ship into him.
You know what? Just like they did in Nemesis.
Yes. That too. That's fair. But you know what? At least in that, it was more of an emotional moment. You know, and although, oh, god damn it,
well, that's just Riker, man. Riker's just like, that's it. That's, you know what? I have no other choice. Let's just fucking ram.
it really brought me back to the pilot episode of like the 2-part pilot episode of Next Generation, where the ship detaches for like a hot minute.
Yeah.
So it really threw me back to that, and in that sense too, it reminded me of the motion pictures. Like you get some feelings of throwbacks to like earlier, you know, seasons, and like kind of like you get the history. You get that sense of the history.
It's there. The Trek is there.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just it's in a different format now. It's newer. It's updated. So it has a bit of a different feel to it. And then on the other hand, like you have this weird prologue at the front that's like really kind of like a limb that just kind of awkwardly hangs out at the front. It's not bad. It's not that it's a bad sequence. It just really feels out of place in the film to me. Personally.
A little bit, yeah.
And that long opening shot of the bottle hitting the Enterprise.
You know what? It's one thing I'm glad we evolved out of is the long opening credits of
I know.
movies.
I'm so glad too. My friend Sean always used to complain about it. I never used to be bothered by it, but now I am. The older I've gotten,
it's just like fucking fast forward, man.
Like, okay, I get it, because you know they're trying to basically force audiences to see who's worked on the film, right? Yeah. And the more I understand film, and this is the opportunity actually I'm going to take. I'm going to look at you this time, as I've done in the past.
Me?
No, at them, for fuck's sakes, not at you.
Jesus Christ. But you're always pointing at me.
Shit, but I'm looking at you on your screen, but I'm looking at them too, technically, because they're going to be watching this on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
I am in some films. I might link to them in the description here, and maybe on our Facebook page instead. I haven't decided yet, but I have starred in a few films for Confederation College and Conflicts. So my vampire film. Wow,
you're a vampire film.
The vampire film I'm in as a breathless man who has to try and escape these vampires. It's called Vampires with Fizzy Smiles. It's on YouTube. You could probably just type that in after you watch this, although I will also put a link up, like I said. I think
please. I want to watch it.
Other films are coming. I'm not too sure yet when they will be, but they'll be. Yeah. So, yeah, I'll do that for sure. I will do that.
I haven't watched it. I got to watch this.
It was exciting for me to watch. It's only like 2 minutes long, so it's not even like it's not going to eat up a lot of your time. Literally just watch me struggle to get out of this place with these two vampires. They're played by these two fantastic actors who I really admire and who are just beautiful, shiny people. And also the guy who gets tortured at the beginning, Gleb, everybody, all the people who play the dead bodies around me, and the director, Kevin Musto, everybody on the crew. I just got to thank everybody while I have the chance on air. Awesome time. And also thanking everybody else who I worked with in all the other films. We'll get to that, and I'm going to make a post about it. But
awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great.
So that's kind of my recent news, I guess. And just because as we're getting to the hour mark here, I figure we should, We should
probably, it's a minute 3. Should probably wrap this stuff up. I don't have any final thoughts. I think we wrapped it up pretty good about this movie. It's worth a watch, that's for sure. I mean, if you're a Trek fan, you're going to watch it. And
yes. Like, come on.
And that's the thing. It's such a Trek movie.
I think it's still fun at the end of the day.
It's a fan movie. Oh, God, yeah.
Even when it's frustrating. Well, not when it's frustrating, sorry. But even when it's not frustrating, like it's very fun. Can be fun. It's great to see Kirk back, even if it's
just the last
kind of
time.
Contrived. But it's still, yeah.
So I got to ask you now about, because we're going to move into the Star Trek 2009?
Kelvin timeline, 2009.
Calvin time. We're going into the Calvin timeline. So, okay, we see Kirk as old man Kirk coming back, get the Enterprise back in the motion picture. We see the death of Kirk, and now we're going to see the resurrection of Kirk.
Yes.
With Chris Pine. So, what is your opinion on the resurrection of Kirk? Just a tease out for next week.
I am I'm actually a fan of the first Star Trek film in 2009. Just because it's different. Literally just because it's different. It's just a different flavor. You know, I'm not a fan of Into Darkness. And I think Beyond was good. That's what I would say.
I agree.
It's like another 3, maybe 3.5 out of 5. Maybe even we're getting
Beyond
close to a 4. That's what I'm saying.
Beyond was good. I'd say it's about 3.5, 4 out of 5.
Yeah. Whereas I would place Star Trek at 4 or 4.5.
I would put
as
Star
a film.
Trek as a film. Star Trek 2009 is a solid 4.5 out of 5. Like it's got a little couple parts that bug me, but it's actually a pretty tight, solid film for a resurrection film, like for this reboot film. It is, and I don't mind the Calvin timeline. I think it doesn't really affect me anyway at all.
Well, ultimately, although we'll get into it next week, but there are little ways in which it has led to what we have now, which is kind of polarizing among Star Trek fans even today. But we'll get into that because we'll get into that. It all spawns out of the evolution of Star Trek. I still have a great love of Star Trek 2009 because it also brought back the franchise. You know what I mean? It also brought attention back to Star Trek enough to get the wheels in motion, to get more media, more everything back. You know, it's like, okay,
completely
amazing.
Agree.
You know,
and that's the thing. And what would you rate Into Darkness?
Into Darkness.
Yes. Well, I'm curious now.
It's a movie I actually find hard to rewatch. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, out of the trilogy. Probably, like, I can't even, I feel like I can't even justify giving it a 3 because of the ending, which pisses me off so much. And the fact that he was Khan. I'm sorry, but I can't. I can't get behind Cucumber Patch Bendy Dick as Khan. It's not. He's not my Khan. Not my Khan. Ricardo Montalban for life.
Why is Spock screaming Khan? I give it a solid 3. 3.5 maybe. I'll have to rewatch it again. But I actually did like it, but mostly because I like the franchise, and the franchise was it's not a bad franchise, and they're working on number 4 now, so I want to see.
I heard they might have canceled it now, though. Again.
Really?
Yeah.
Again? Oh, shit.
And they're not even doing Tarantino's anymore either, so it's all.
No. I wouldn't mind seeing Tarantino's Star Trek.
I have no opinions on it. If it happens, it happens, basically, and I would probably watch it.
I would watch it.
Just to see.
I'm curious. Very
just like
curious.
with Star Trek 2009. Although back then it was also like, oh, cool, new Star Trek. You know.
I was on board. I was so on board in 2009. All right, my friend.
All right.
I think it's time for us to let go.
Time to amscray so I can apple bread a.
Oh, swell.
No, I don't know. And also, you know where you, not you, the lovely people of YouTube can find us on our Facebook page at High on Hollywood. You can find us on Twitter at High on Hollywoo1. You can also find us on Instagram at High on Hollywood TBay. And individually, I am at Afrotastic27 pretty much for everything. Or just look me up on Medium, look me up on WordPress. You can find me. And where can they find you?
Oh, they can find me on, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under C Flurry at CFlurry315. And you can find me at Midnight Dreamscapes on Facebook. That's where all my poetic storytelling goes on. And I'm not going to make any promises this week to do stuff, but because I have a bunch of stuff I got to take care of. But there's going to be some poetry on there. So.
We got upcoming stuff. Do not worry. The content is on the way, man. On the way, man.
So much things to do.
So much content, man. You ain't gonna see it.
You just gotta wait.
Coming. So much. Gonna flood your inbox, man. No, probably not, man. I wouldn't make promises like that. No way, man. Not that won't happen, but I can't make the promise, Bob.
All right. Well, for that is all for High on Hollywood. Until next week.
We will see you again, and we will be talking the beautiful, beautiful Christmas. Have a good evening, afternoon, and good night. Wait,
good night.
That was backwards. Anyway, bye.